Hello there. So let's talk about the expression English or speak English. Now, there are some people who don't like it when people don't speak English, or sometimes people are frustrated because of the language barrier. So there are those cases where it is more of a literal expression saying speak English. Um, but the problem is sometimes English speakers will say it to people who speak English fluently, even as a first language. Basically, what's going on is the individual will say, English, please, or English, or speak English, when the other person in the conversation or other people in the conversation will be speaking at an intelligence level much higher than them, or perhaps when the other party or parties are party of parties is basically in this sense other people or another person, but basically when that situation arises, I should say, when that situation arises, what that means is the other person is speaking in a way that is too complicated for someone to understand. So they will say speak English, meaning sort of a plain English, average person English, basically means say it in a way I can understand. So it could be higher intellect, or it could be they're using something called jargon, which is terms and phrases that pertain to a certain field. In the movie IRobot, there was an example where this individual who works with the software of the AI, the robots, starts explaining what she does, and then Will Smith says English, and so she brings it down a little bit to explain what she's doing, and then he goes normal person's English, and then she says it very basic. So that's an example of saying English / speaking English / normal person's English. Again, some people mean it in a mean way or discriminatory way. But it can also mean, you're using a lot of jargon, terms, and phrases I can't understand because I'm not in that field, or you're using a lot of words I don't understand. Lower the vocabulary and lower the technicalities, what you're saying, so that I understand what you're saying. So other people can use it for, sometimes it's used for comedic purposes. For instance, someone speaking English and you can't understand them. An example is in the movie Jumping Jack Flash. In the beginning, the main character, played by Whoopi Goldberg, had to figure out from the code of the song Jumping Jack Flash, as far as the code key to get to an encrypted channel or something on the computer. And she had to use that as a password. So what she's doing is trying to write down the words, the lyrics, by hand from a cassette tape. And it playing, writing down the words from hand. And as a result, she just keeps trying to write it down. And I don't know if you've ever heard the song Jumping Jack Flash. You can look it up. That song is really hard to understand, even for people that speak English. So she has to keep writing stuff over and over again, correcting herself. And at one point, she just gets worn down and she's going, speak English. Those are examples. So it can be used for comedy, where you can't understand someone, or perhaps it's being used, they're using jargon too much, or they're using words you just don't understand. So you say speak English, which is basically saying speak it at a level of terminology I could understand. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to speak English as in the actual language, but it could mean speak it to a level I can understand.